Okay, this lecture module is called International Central Banking, Systemic Moral Hazard, Socialized Risk, and Private Profit. We're going to be looking at how the way international banking is set up, it creates socialized risk and private profits. This is a notion from classical liberalism. In 2001, 2006, you have easy money and then lending policies which are encouraging people to buy mortgages, especially people who can't afford mortgages. Then in 2007, you have monetary tightening, which then pops the mortgage bubble, pops the housing boom and bust, creates the bust. And then the housing boom and bust then leads to the bailouts, and the bailouts are the private profits and socialized risk. In other words, the bailouts are paid by the taxpayer. So let's say you have this commercial bank in New York City. They issue 100 mortgages, housing mortgages at $1 million each, creating $100 million worth of mortgages. The banks, and this bank, Bank B, is in San Francisco. They get deposits, and those deposits are government guaranteed deposits. So that's socialized sources of funds, in that the government guarantees the deposits. And then when banks have to follow proscribed international banking standards, prescribes all the banks to use the same risk analysis instead of local and decentralized self-interested risk return analysis. The international banking standards, the Basel standards, tell all the banks how to behave. So then you get the guaranteed socialized sources of funds here. Then the central banking tells banks how to behave. And then due to the boom and bust bubble, then the banks get bailed out for following the rules that the international banking standards prescribe. So the bank in New York City with $100 million in mortgages, they create a mortgage-backed bond collateralized by these mortgages. They sell the mortgage-backed bond to Bank B in San Francisco. So now San Francisco is diversifying their portfolio with New York-based loans. The bank in San Francisco then creates another mortgage-backed bond that they sell to the bank in El Paso, Texas, and they get 100 million flows back to them, and both banks get fees. So this creates private profit, these fees. Most profits for banks come from fees that they charge, especially during this period of low interest rates of the last 10 years, and now, especially now with the coronavirus. So the banks get their deposits, and then they have to hold a certain amount of their deposits on reserve. This is fractional reserve banking. And these reserves are in the form of state debt. These mortgage-backed bonds are guaranteed by the state. So the reserves are both direct treasury debt as bonds, as well as the mortgage-backed bonds guaranteed by the state. And the more reserves that the banks buy, the more lending they're able to do. And so this is how you get the underlying mortgage-backed bonds were 3 times the underlying value of the mortgages that were issued during the housing boom. Then this happens throughout all over the world. The bank in El Paso, Texas, then sells a mortgage-backed bond to the bank in Valencia, Spain for $100 million. The bank in Valencia, Spain, then, so that the bank in Milano can diversify their portfolio, sells the mortgage-backed bond collateralized by the mortgages or the euro. And so that's how it works. You get a buildup in poorly rated mortgage-backed bonds. International banking standards create systemic risk, which fails, and you get boom and bust banking. So these ideas are captured in two books by the issued by the Independent Institute. And also well captured here in this edition of the Critical Review, this particular case of the housing boom and bust leading to this 2007-2008 financial crisis and then the subsequent bailouts. Thank you. That completes our lecture module on international central banking, systemic moral hazard, socialized risk, and private profit. Thank you.